This is TWiT.
Apple announced, I believe, at the end of last year, we'll get to that in a second, but perhaps our guest knows, but not too long ago announced the self-service repair program. And they said soon we're going to have some different products available to you so that if your device breaks, you can, if you would like, take care of it yourself. But then we didn't hear about it for a while, and then a few articles started coming out saying, is Apple ever going to announce this thing? Is it going to release this thing? And it continued to not happen until now. And so joining us today to talk about it from Six Colors, it's Dan Moren.
Hey, Mikah, how's it going?
It's going well, and we've prepared something special for you. That sound means you're the birthday boy. Happy birthday!
If I had a noisemaker, I'd blow it. But, yeah.
Thank you. That was very exciting. The trumpets. I assume you got those special.
Yeah, we have a few people. All right, you guys are good.
Yeah.
You can go.
Oh, well,
help yourself some food in the kitchen.
Get some coffee, whatever you need.
Cool.
Thank you for being here today on your birthday. We appreciate you joining us. So let's start by, maybe you can answer the question of when Apple first said that it was planning on doing the self-service repair program.
Yeah, that was last November. So you're right. Around the end of last year, they announced that this was something they would start doing in 2022, but it wasn't until just this week that they actually started rolling out the processes allowing people to get the parts and tools they need in order to start repairing their iPhones.
Now, at the time, the conversation definitely surrounded a lot of, not necessarily court cases in every instance, but some regulatory attention being paid to Apple in different ways. And one of those ways was the repairability of its devices. And I know that a lot of folks kind of said, oh, Apple is doing this so that they can have an answer for when the repairability thing happened. And so we got that super early announcement, but we only just now got the actual rollout of it. And it was interesting how it came a few days after people started to say, hey, I thought Apple was supposed to be announcing a repairability program. What's going on there? So in any case, it is here. And I was hoping that you could start by kind of talking about what this has ended up looking like. If someone, say, I am talking on my phone and I accidentally drop it to the ground and crack the screen, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to try to do this myself. What does the process look like for me going in and getting a fix for my iPhone 13?
Sure. Yeah. So basically what Apple's done is set up a site. It's at selfservicerepair.com. I believe it's managed by a third party, but essentially it is a way that you can get Apple genuine parts. You can get Apple genuine tools. You can get access to service manuals, the same ones that basically Apple technicians use when you take your phone into an Apple store, an authorized retailer, repair place, etc. And you can get access to those pieces and those tools and do the repair yourself. Now, in order to do it, let's make a couple caveats here. One, there are only a small number of devices currently supported. They are all iPhones. They are basically the iPhone 12 line, the iPhone 13 line, and the most recent iPhone SE. And then in each case, there are only certain repairs that are available. I think there's maybe half a dozen or so for each of them, among which include the display, the speaker, the battery, etc. Things that are very sort of simple to do. And Apple has said that this will expand over time, not only in terms of what products are actually available, but where this service is available. It's currently, I believe, U.S. only, though they said they plan to start expanding it into Europe. And then, in theory, potentially more complex repairs might be available at some point. That's a little unclear at this point.
Yeah, so that was kind of one of my curiosities. While I will say that, looking through these manuals and looking at the site that's been set up, of course, I already created an account on the site because I thought that it was just going to require my Apple ID, but it was actually a whole separate account, which was kind of odd. But anyway, I signed up there in the event that this is something that I do. I was hoping that you could talk about, because, okay, so if I were to go to iFixit, I could look up my iPhone and I could order a screen to replace my iPhone screen if it were broken. And with that, they offer usually either just the repair part itself or the repair part and a couple of tools. But one of the things that Apple has that you can't just get by going to iFixit is some tools, as you said, that they use kind of behind the scenes if you were to take your phone in. How are those tools available? Am I going to have to spend $2,000 for a thing that heats up my phone display? How does that work?
Yeah, so there's a couple options, actually. You can buy the tools outright, and Apple, I believe, has said that these parts and tools are available to consumers at the same prices that they're available to basically technicians, third-party technicians who want to buy them from Apple. And as such, I was actually kind of surprised in some of these cases that they're as cheap as they are. I mean, like, as you're saying, there's a heated display removal fixture, which you're showing there, which is $250, which is expensive. I mean, if you're just replacing one screen, you probably don't want to spend $250. That's more probably than taking it into the Apple Store in the first place. But I guess if you break screens a lot, you could decide to buy one and just have it on hand in case, or I'll fix all your friends' phones
fix your
or what
friends.
have you.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Set up a little lucrative sideline there. But Apple is also offering the ability to rent the tools you need, and they're providing them as like a big package. And when I say big package, I mean very large. Like, this is two like big, wheeled plastic cases full of tools, and I think they say they weigh something like 30 or 40 pounds a piece. So, this is a serious business here, but they will rent it to you for $49, including shipping. They'll send it out to you. You get it for 7 days, and then you drop it back at the UPS store when you're done. And you don't need to worry about keeping those things around the house, which frankly seems, I would say, pretty reasonable. I mean, again, in most of these cases, people probably aren't buying these tools outright because the number of times you actually want to use them is probably pretty low. So making it affordable and easy to rent these things does seem like a good solution sort of in the mid-ground there.
Yeah, I've gone through and configured with an iPhone 12 mini. I can get the heated display removal fixture, which is this big honkin' gray box that has, you plug it in and it's got heat and all that kind of stuff for $256. I can get the display press, which is this huge metal contraption with a handle that you pull to press down the display for $216. And then the actual heated display pocket, which is this special contraption that fits the phone in perfectly, for $116. None of that really calls to me, but I have to tell you, the torque drivers are actually kind of interesting because with these, you are essentially, for folks who don't know, it is making it so that when you tighten it, it only lets you tighten it to a certain extent. That's kind of the torque, the pressure at which you're tightening something. So that's one of the things that I've always kind of been concerned about because I want to make sure things are very tight, but I don't want to over tighten. And so when I use my iFixit tools to do this kind of stuff, I maybe side on the side of not tightening too much. But with these torque drivers, you essentially, push it and it will start clicking and not let you press any harder or tighten any harder than Apple recommends for the different pieces. So that's kind of cool. But I'm seeing online that the rental, if you do the whole rental that comes with the display press, that comes with the heater, it's a 7-day rental. Have you done any repairs in the past? And when you have, was it one of those things that you had to psych yourself up to, or did you kind of quickly get on it? Because I'm thinking, and I'll kind of talk for myself in a moment, whenever I've done this in the past, but 7 days kind of made me a little worried. What about you?
Well, I'm not somebody who has done a lot of repairs to my iPhone. That said, I've, for a long time, spent a lot of time taking apart computers, including several of my Macs. I used to work in IT and spend a lot of time sort of with my hands in computers, getting them all scraped up from all the sharp metal pieces and delighted things like that. In terms of this stuff, if you're looking at something that's really like a one-time task, I think a 7-day time period seems pretty reasonable to me. I feel like once I get that toolkit, I can be sort of like raring to go. I find that a lot of times when I've done repairs, they take me, the better part of an afternoon or something like that, depending on how complex it is. Generally, if it takes longer, it's because I did something wrong. I have to take it apart and put it back together again. But on the iPhone side, I think I've always been a little more wary about dealing with such of these tiny components in there and accidentally breaking something. So maybe this increases the pressure a little bit to know that you have to return it. It's like getting the best new releases at the library where they only give it to you a certain amount of time, and you got to finish reading that book in that amount of time because you'll never get it again.
Yeah, I was going through the manual, and one thing I didn't know, Apple actually recommends that when you undo this, all of those screws should be replaced. You should put new screws in because those screws have little blue wax on them. I thought it was just sort of a material to help grab, but it's more of an adhesive, and so by reusing the screws, you're not getting the best sort of fastening that you possibly can. So it's
a good tip.
Yeah, exactly. Pro tip straight from the source. So do you foresee, I mean, you're sort of looking into your crystal ball and also listening to what other folks have said about the self-service repair program, do you think this increases, decreases, or doesn't change the number of people who will take on self-repair versus taking this in to be serviced?
I think perhaps I don't see it decreasing it necessarily, but I think it's probably flat to a small increase. And the reason for that is I think the kind of people who are likely to do their own repairs are the kind of people who've always been likely to do their own repairs. I don't think necessarily that new people are going to be like, oh, well, I broke my iPhone. I'm going to give a shot at replacing the screen. I know a lot of people who have broken their iPhone screens. There are very few of them that I think would be willing to do this, especially given that, like, depending on the relative costs, right? Like, you got to rent the tools, you got to buy the parts, you got to invest the time. All of that added up, you might have a lot of people saying, it's just as easy for me to go to the Apple Store and pay the fee and have somebody else worry about it. Most people don't change their oil, right? Like, you could. Right. I know people who do, but the people who do change their oil are doing it because they've invested the time and energy in learning how to do that. But a lot of people are happy to just drive down the street and pay the $30 or whatever to have somebody replace their oil. So for me, I feel like it's great that this option is there. I do think that one caveat that's been brought up is there are a lot of people, especially those pushing the sort of right to repair agenda, that they don't think this goes far enough. For example, you have to provide a serial number for the device before you order any parts, which, I think people are sometimes concerned. Like, again, the whole movement promulgated on the idea that this is my device, I can do with it what I want, and I should be able to repair it. They don't like the idea of not being able to buy parts without it being tied to a specific device. I don't know. Apple already has programs for dealing with independent repair shops and stuff, so it's not as though there are businesses necessarily. I want to buy 20 batteries to have on hand so I can replace batteries for people. There are other venues for them to do that. So I don't know how much of an actual problem that is, but I can understand people being concerned about it.
Absolutely. Folks in the chat were asking, are you able to replace the charging port on your iPhone using this? I'm looking through, and the options are battery, bottom speaker, camera, display, SIM tray, and Taptic engine. The SIM tray, by the way, $7.20 to get.
They just send you a new one. You can just swap that out.
That's pretty easy. That's an easy one.
Yeah, that's
I was going to say, yeah.
Anyone can do.
Yeah, they have said in their initial announcement back in November, they said that it would roll out most commonly service modules at the beginning, and the ability for additional repairs would be available later next year. So the potential to do that is possibly coming later in the year, just depending on parts and stuff like that. So you may be able to replace it, but don't think you can go in and replace it with like a USB-C port. That's not how that works.
I'm going to upgrade my port.
That's right. A modular phone. I just take out the stuff I don't want, throw in new stuff.
Do you think that, if you had to guess, what would we see next hitting this? Is it just going to be more iPhones? Do you think that, Macs will make their way into this, or will that always kind of be a thing that you got to send in your computer for?
I feel pretty good about the possibility of Macs getting there because, again, that is a place where user servicing is a long tradition, and it's something that I think is very feasible. Likewise, the iPad seems likely that if the iPhone's there as an option, the iPad would be there as an option. I'm a little curious about some of the other stuff. Like, I don't think Apple's going to give you the chance to replace anything in your AirPods or, say, your Apple Watch. I think those would be a lot dicier for people to take apart. Not impossible, but I don't think it's at the top of the list. But Macs, I think the Macs will probably show up at some point. Hey, maybe even in your Apple TV, you can take it apart and fix that wonky port in the back or something.
Well, I think that pretty much covers it. We went through some of the different devices that you're able to repair and talked a little bit about the repair manuals. I guess my last question is, should I or should I not throw my iPhone to the ground right now just so I can get some of these fun tools that Apple's offering?
Well, nothing's stopping you from getting those fun tools without throwing your iPhone onto the ground, Micah.
True.
Just
my
your
bank
own
account.
personal decision not to do that. So I don't know. That's a decision we've all got to make for ourselves when it comes to our iPhones and Gravity.
Thank you so much for joining us today on your birthday of all days. Of course, folks can head to sixcolors.com to check out your great work. But if they want to follow you online, where else can they go?
You can find me at dmoren on Twitter and Instagram, and my website's at dmoren.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much.